The room fell quiet except for the soft hitch in her breath. He stood just inches away, close enough for her to feel the warmth radiating from his skin but not touching. Not yet. Her heartbeat betrayed her, tapping anxiously against her ribs. His eyes lowered to her lips, then rose again with a slow, deliberate calm that made her legs weaken. "Tell me what you want," he murmured, voice deep, low, velvet-drenched. She swallowed hard, feeling the words catch in her throat, not because she was shy, but because the moment felt too real, too electric, too powerful. "I want," she whispered, stepping closer until her breath mingled with his. "I want to feel you. Completely. I want to feel all of you." His breath stopped, just for a second, and in that quiet pause, every unspoken desire between them ignited. Not wild, not reckless, but slow, intentional, irresistible. His hand rose, trembling with restraint as his fingers brushed the curve of her waist. "If I touch you," he whispered, "I won't stop, not tonight." "Then don't," she breathed, eyes soft, lips parted with need. "Don't stop, not this time." Their foreheads touched, both of them shaking from the tension they'd been holding back for far too long. Here in the dim light, two people found themselves wanting the same thing: connection, closeness, the kind of intimacy that makes two souls lean toward each other like gravity. And when his lips finally met hers, it wasn't lust. It was surrender. If this story touched something deep in you, if you felt her walls fall, his silence speak, and their world finally breathe again, then don't just leave yet. Hit subscribe, because NUP stories like this don't just entertain. They remind you that power can be gentle, and love can rebuild what control once broke. Tell me in the comments which moment hit you hardest, and if you're ready for more love stories that feel real, raw and alive, where strength meets vulnerability and emotion always wins, then stay close, because the next story begins where this one leaves your heart. The cafe was quiet, almost too quiet, for the city lights twinkling just outside the window. She sat by the corner, fingers wrapped around her coffee cup, pretending to focus on her laptop. But her eyes kept drifting toward the door, as if waiting for someone she didn't yet know would arrive. And then he walked in. Not with the arrogance of a man used to attention, but with the calm certainty of someone who knew exactly who he was, and what he wanted. Their eyes met for the briefest moment, a flicker that felt like the world had paused. Her breath caught, though she tried to hide it. He smiled just slightly enough to make her stomach flip. He approached slowly, but every step felt deliberate, magnetic, pulling her in without a word. "Mind if I sit?" he asked, voice low, smooth, almost too warm for the cool air around them. She nodded, her pulse quickening. "Sure." They talked at first about trivial things, the weather, the city, the coffee. But with every word, every laugh, every glance, the space between them seemed to shrink. Not physically, but something far more electric, deeper. He leaned in slightly. "You have this way of looking at the world," he murmured, eyes searching hers. "Like you're seeing things no one else can." Her lips curved into a shy smile. "And you? You look like you notice everything." There it was, that charge, that unspoken pull. Their hands brushed as he reached for his cup, and neither of them moved away. Neither needed to. Her heartbeat grew erratic, but it wasn't fear. It was desire. A desire that wasn't just physical, but emotional, spiritual, visceral. He leaned closer, voice dropping into that private space between them. "I want to know you. All of you. Every hidden part. Every thought you think you keep to yourself." Her lips parted, and for a moment she thought she might lose the ability to speak. "Then, let me in," she whispered, barely audible, yet full of meaning. And in that moment everything shifted. Time slowed. The cafe, the city, the lights outside, and all faded. There was only the two of them, suspended in an invisible current of anticipation, desire, and connection. He rested his hand gently against hers. "I promise," he said softly. "I'll make sure you feel seen, truly seen." Her chest rose and fell, breath mingling with his. She could feel the promise in every syllable, in every slight movement, in the way the world seemed to tilt toward them. No grand gestures, no dramatic declarations. Just two people drawn to each other, finally allowing the gravity between them to exist without fear or restraint. And as the night deepened, the city lights flickered outside like tiny witnesses to the start of something inevitable. Something neither of them had expected, but both had been silently longing for all along. His lips lingered on hers, not pressing, not claiming, just tasting the moment. Slow, careful, as though he didn't want to scare away the delicate, trembling honesty between them. She curled her fingers into his shirt, grounding herself. It wasn't the kiss alone that made her knees weaken. It was the way he breathed her in, like he'd been waiting for her longer than he ever admitted, even to himself. He pulled back just enough to search her eyes. "You feel that too, right?" he asked quietly. "Tell me I'm not imagining this." She exhaled a small, shaky laugh, the kind that escapes when the truth becomes impossible to swallow back down. "You're not imagining anything," she whispered. "I've been fighting you, for weeks." A shadow of a smile touched his lips, the kind of smile a man gives when he finally hears what he's been dying to believe. "Then come here," he murmured. He guided her gently to the wall, not with force, but with intention. Her back met the cool surface, and his warmth covered the rest of the world. His forehead touched hers again, breath warm against her cheek. "Tell me what you're feeling," he whispered. She hesitated, not out of fear, but because words felt too small for the electricity flooding her body. "I feel," she whispered, her voice trembling as she confessed, "I'm drawn to you, like you're the only person my body listens to." His fingers slipped to her waist, tracing slowly, reverently, learning her shape like a memory he wanted to keep forever. "And you don't want me to stop?" he asked, voice low enough to shiver along her spine. Her answer came out in a breath, soft but certain. "No, I want more." His eyes darkened with a longing he'd tried too long to bury. "You have no idea what you're doing to me," he said, voice barely above a whisper. "You're making it impossible to stay in control." She tilted her head, lips brushing his ear. An accidental temptation. "Then don't stay in control," she whispered. The words unlocked something in him. Something warm, something hungry, something patient, but no longer willing to pretend it didn't exist. He kissed her again, deeper this time, slower, almost reverent. His hands framed her face like she was something precious. Someone he didn't want to rush. Someone he wanted to explore piece by piece, breath by breath. And for the first time she realized, this wasn't just desire. This was a connection. The kind that makes two people move closer without thinking, without planning, without fear. The kind that makes them feel found. The morning sunlight spilled through the blinds, painting stripes across her bedroom floor. She sat on the edge of her bed, phone in hand, reading a message that made her pulse race without a single word that was extraordinary. It was just his name, and yet somehow it carried a weight that made her heart flutter like a bird trapped in her chest. "Can I see you today? There's something I need to show you." Her fingers trembled slightly as she typed back a simple yes. By the time she reached the café, he was already there, seated in the same corner where they had met. But somehow different. He looked at her the way someone looks at a painting they can't stop examining, with quiet reverence, as if memorizing every detail. "Good morning," he said softly, voice lower than before, warmer, more intimate. "Morning," she replied, heart hammering. They didn't start with conversation this time. Instead, they let the quiet between them stretch and fold, filling with tension, longing, and anticipation. The air around them felt thick, almost tangible. At one point, his hand brushed hers just barely, but enough to send sparks racing up her arm. She didn't pull away. Why would she? She wanted this, wanted him, this connection, this invisible thread pulling them closer. "Do you ever feel," he asked, gaze intense, "like someone can see right through you and somehow it doesn't scare you?" Her breath hitched. "Yes," she whispered. "Exactly like that." His smile was slow, deliberate. "Then you'll understand this." He leaned closer, his forearm resting lightly on the table, hand barely an inch from hers. The closeness made every nerve alive, every thought drawn to him. She felt it too, the magnetic pull that made distance impossible. "I want you to know," he murmured, "that I notice you. Not just what's obvious but all the little things that make you. You." Her lips parted, not because she wanted to speak, but because the words forming in her chest were too large to contain. "I've never felt this way before," she admitted, voice trembling. "Like I could just lean into someone and they'd hold me without asking questions." He reached across the table, fingertips brushing hers this time, just enough to make her shiver. "Then lean," he whispered. "It's not a command, Not a promise of one night or fleeting desire. Just a gentle, irresistible invitation, and in that small, intimate gesture everything changed. Her world narrowed to the warmth of his gaze, the electricity in that brush of skin, and the unspoken understanding that they were both ready to surrender to something bigger than themselves, something that had been waiting to awaken all along. The cafe buzzed around them, but they didn't hear it. They didn't care. They existed only in each other's orbit, drawn closer, learning the rhythm of anticipation and longing. A dance neither had rehearsed, but both instinctively knew. As they finally rose to leave, their hands found each other naturally. Just holding, not rushing, not forcing, but enough to make the rest of the world disappear. And as they walked side by side into the morning sun, neither spoke. Words were unnecessary. Every glance, every touch, every breath told them exactly what they both wanted. The story between them was just beginning, but it was already impossible to ignore. He kept her close, their breaths still tangled, the heat between them alive and pulsing. But now she saw something deeper in his eyes. A memory, a beginning. He exhaled softly. "Do you know when you first started getting to me?" She looked up at him, her fingertips brushing his collar. "Tell me." He gave a small, almost embarrassed smile, the kind that slips out when a man is admitting something he's kept hidden too long. "The day you walked into the company," he said quietly. "Your first morning at Rowan Tech, you barely said a word. You were just observing everything." She laughed softly. "I was terrified. Everyone looked like they already knew exactly what they were doing." "You didn't look terrified to me," he murmured. "You looked like you owned the place but didn't realize it yet." Her cheeks warmed. "That's not what I felt." He shook his head slowly. Everyone else walked through that office like they were performing. Fake confidence, fake smiles. But you were real. And that, God, it disarmed me. She traced her thumb along the edge of his jaw, a soft, soothing touch. "What about you?" he asked. "When did I first get to you?" She swallowed. The memory rose instantly. "It was in the elevator," she whispered. He blinked. "The first day?" She nodded. "You stepped in, holding your tablet, your sleeves rolled up." Her breath shook just remembering it. "Everyone else greeted you like you were some unreachable figure. But you looked at me, the new hire who didn't know where the copy machine was, and you smiled like you had all the time in the world." He huffed a soft laugh. "I remember that. You were staring at the buttons, trying to figure out what floor the design team was on." "I was panicking," she admitted. "And you just pressed the button for me without making me feel stupid." His thumb brushed her cheek, soft and slow. "That's when you got to me," she whispered. "Not because you were the boss, but because you were kind, gentle, human." He looked at her long and hard, not with intensity, but with truth. "I noticed every little thing after that," he said. "How you tuck your hair when you're concentrating. How you bite the end of your pen during presentations. How you never back down when you believe in an idea." She felt her heart tighten. "And you," she whispered. "How you pretend to be composed in meetings, but your foot taps under the table when you're excited about a new project." A quiet, intimate laugh escaped him, the kind a man can only give when he finally feels seen. "That's when it started," she murmured. "Long before tonight." He leaned down, brushing his lips against her forehead. "I tried to forget it," he admitted softly. "I tried to keep things professional, to ignore the way everything about you drew me in." "And did it work?" she asked. He shook his head slowly, his breath warm against her skin. "No," he whispered. "Not for a single day." Her fingers curled into his shirt again, instinctively, naturally, like she'd been holding back the same truth. "So tonight," she whispered, "isn't sudden." He took her hand gently, pressing it over his heart. "No," he said. "It's been building from the moment you stepped into my company and made the whole place feel different." Their eyes locked. Their bodies leaned closer, and it became clear. Tonight wasn't the beginning of something. It was the moment they finally allowed themselves to step into what had been growing between them all along, as if her words reached him in a place no one else ever had. "I need you to stay exactly how you are right now," he whispered. "Soft, wanting, waiting for me." Her knees weakened. She swallowed. "That's not fair." He brushed a knuckle along her cheek, slow and warm. "Neither is the way you're looking at me," he murmured. "You're going to ruin my focus." "Good," she whispered. He let out a low, helpless laugh, the kind that came from a man on the edge of losing control. "I'll be quick," he promised. He stepped back, then returned for one last touch. He walked down the corridor with long, steady strides. Or at least he tried to. Inside, he was anything but steady. His pulse was still hammering from the moment they almost collided into something they couldn't turn back from. Her breath. Her voice. The way she whispered stay like it was a secret she'd been holding for months. He had never wanted anyone the way he wanted her. And now he had to go troubleshoot a system crash while pretending he hadn't just been seconds away from kissing her like a man starving. When he reached the tech floor, one of the analysts greeted him nervously. "Sir, we didn't mean to—" "It's fine," he said, sharper than intended. They exchanged a look, confused, surprised, because he was usually calm, patient, careful with his words. He tried again, softer. "Let's see the issue." But his thoughts were nowhere near the glitching interface. They were upstairs. In that room. With her. He clenched his jaw, trying to focus on the screen. Lines of code, duplicate files, corrupted logs. The analyst beside him rambled. "We think it started after the patch." He blinked. He hadn't heard a word, because all he could picture was her leaning against the wall, breathing him in, waiting. He shook his head slightly and forced his attention back to the screen. "Focus. Just fix this. Get back to her." But even while he typed, every nerve in his body still felt her hands, her warmth, the way her voice nearly broke when she told him she wanted him too. He had never moved through a task so fast in his life. Not because of urgency, but because he needed to get back to her before the moment slipped away. Meanwhile, she paced the room, her heart still racing. The air felt too warm. Her skin still tingled where he had touched her. Where he had almost kissed her. She pressed her fingertips to her lips, remembering the way his breath had hovered there. 1 inch away, 1 heartbeat away. Her whole body hummed with a flutter she couldn't calm. She wasn't scared. She wasn't confused. She was open, bad, alive in a way she hadn't felt in months, maybe years. She sat on the edge of the sofa, then stood up again, unable to be still. Everything inside her whispered the same truth. He wanted her, not just physically, emotionally, deeply, dangerously, and she wanted him back with a need that surprised her, warmed her, pulled her like gravity. She touched the spot over her heart. Her pulse throbbed there, fast and hopeful. "Come back," she whispered to the empty room. She wasn't imagining him. She wasn't imagining what had sparked between them. It was real. It was undeniable. It was building, growing, tightening like a string pulled to the edge of breaking. And when he walked back through that door, she had no idea what would happen. Only that she wanted it. He typed the final command. The system rebooted cleanly. The analyst cheered softly, relieved. But his mind was already down the hallway, already on the door he needed to open, already on the woman waiting behind it. He straightened, cleared his throat, and said, "Good work, I'll take it from here." Then he turned, walking back with purpose. Quicker now, chest tight with anticipation, mind racing with everything he wanted to say and everything he wanted to do when he saw her again. Tonight had changed things. Completely, irreversibly. And the moment he reached that door, the moment he stepped back into that room, nothing would be the same. "When I look at you like I'm looking right now." His breath shook. "What does it do to you?" Her voice trembled. "It makes me want you." He shuddered, a quiet, helpless exhale escaping him. "Say it again," he whispered, almost pleading. She stepped even closer, her lips brushing his with the softest ghost of contact. "It makes me want you," she repeated, slower, warmer, more honest. A low sound left him. Not loud, not wild, but deep. The sound of a man losing his last line of restraint. He slid his hands around her waist and pulled her fully against him, his voice barely a whisper. "Then don't stop wanting me." Their lips met. This kiss wasn't the soft, trembling one from before. This one had weight. This one had truth. This one said, "I've been waiting for you. I've been wanting you. I'm done pretending." Her fingers slipped into his hair. His hands held her waist with reverence and hunger. Their breaths tangled, their hearts raced, the world faded. And this time no knock interrupted them. Their kiss softened gradually, slowing from urgency to something warmer, sweeter, more certain. When they finally pulled apart, they didn't step away. Their foreheads stayed touching. Breaths mingled, hands still holding on like they were afraid the moment would slip through their fingers. She looked up at him, really looked, and saw the truth shining there. Not just desire, not just chemistry. Something deeper, something steady. "You know this changes everything," she whispered. He nodded, brushing a stray strand of hair behind her ear. "I don't want it to go back," he said softly. "Not for a second." She rested her palms on his chest, feeling the calm strength of his heartbeat finally finding its rhythm again. "What happens now?" she asked. He took her hands in his, interlacing their fingers like it was the most natural thing in the world. "Now," he said, voice low and warm, "I stop pretending." He lifted her hand and pressed a gentle kiss to her knuckles. "And I show you what it feels like to not face life alone anymore." Her breath caught, not from heat this time, but from emotion. He continued, softer. "You've changed the way I walk into every room. The way I think. The way I breathe. I didn't even realize how empty my days were, until you started filling them." Her eyes glistened. "And you," she whispered. "You made me feel seen again. Wanted. Important. Like I'm allowed to take up space. You made me remember that I deserve softness and closeness." He lifted her chin gently. "You deserve everything," he murmured. "And I intend to give you everything I can, slowly, honestly, without rushing anything." She leaned into him as he held her, warmth settling over them like a blanket. No more stolen glances in hallways. No more pretending not to feel the pull. No more hiding behind professional walls. Tonight they had stepped across a line neither of them wanted to retreat from. When she finally spoke, her voice was quiet, full of hope. "So, this is the beginning?" He smiled, that soft, unguarded smile he gave only to her. "No," he whispered. "This is us coming home." She rested her head against his chest as he wrapped his arms around her. Steady and warm and sure, the tension that once crackled between them settled into something deeper. A slow-burning connection that didn't need to rush or explode to feel real. They stood there, bodies close, hearts sinking into the same rhythm. Outside, the night stretched quiet and calm. Inside, a new story began. One built on openness, tenderness, desire, and the quiet certainty that they had found something rare. Something that didn't end in a single night, but started there. A future where they didn't have to fight their feelings anymore. A future where they could lean into the pull instead of resisting it. A future where they chose each other, fully, honestly, and completely. If this story touched you, if it stirred something warm, hopeful, or passionate inside you, don't forget to like this video and subscribe for more deeply emotional romance stories every week. Your engagement helps this channel grow and tells YouTube that you want more love, more connection, and more heart-melting moments like this. Hit the notification bell so you never miss an episode, and share this story with someone who still believes in slow-burning, undeniable love.